So this topic, pivoting in the face of adversity, I'll give you a little bit of background about this. So for those of you who do not know me, which there's a lot on here who do, and so I'm excited to see familiar faces. My background is sales and leadership development, and one thing that I needed to learn, and it was beneficial for me as a salesperson to learn, was how to pivot, how to change course quickly and effectively. And the subject of this this was really designed as a workshop, so there might be some slides on here that I kind of skipped through at a faster pace, but it was designed for an organization that had gone through a lot of change. They had two organizations had merged into one. The leadership had changed, their software had changed, their processes within their organization had changed, and there was also a population of people who are not, who tend to be personalities that don't adapt to change as well. So there was just a lot, they were feeling kind of beat up. And so that's the material that I'm going to share with you today. And you may, if you don't have a piece of paper in front of you, you may want to grab one, and there'll be a couple diagrams that might be helpful to write down as I go. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. And let's see, get this PowerPoint going. Where are we here? Share screen. Okay, can everybody see this? Give me a thumbs up if you can see this. Okay, perfect. So pivoting in the face of adversity. In this title, there's two key words, adversity and pivot. And when I looked up these definitions, I thought, oh my gosh, this is, I love this. Adversity is defined as an unfortunate event or circumstance. And would you agree that that's what we're in right now? An unfortunate event or circumstance. It's probably one of the most unfortunate events that nobody has ever really predicted that we would be in. And then the word pivot is a dramatic change in policy, position, or strategy. Pivot can be something that is asked, is you are told to do, or pivot can also be something mentally and internally that you decide to do. So we're going to look at this. I love throwing quotes in. So this one, change is the only constant in life. If you don't like change, well, get over it. It's going to happen. And we can't always change what's happening to us, but we can change how we respond to it. So we're going to look at the three things today. Number one, briefly understanding the cycles of change. Number two, touching upon maybe your internal wiring and giving you, helping you maybe recognize when you are feeling stressed, when you are feeling conflict. And the last is then how to minimize the stress that's involved in change. So we're going to start by looking at something that I originally learned. It's called the attitude and emotion cycle. Since I learned it the first time, it's also in counseling and in therapy, it is a grief cycle. But I first learned it in the context of business, in the context of sales and navigating my life as a small business owner. And I think that it's important as somebody in business and maybe as a business owner or as a leader, this concept that when winds of change blow, some people build walls and others build windmills. I don't know about you guys right now. I know that every single day is different. How you are processing the information that is coming down about this pandemic, processing the information about what's going on in our economy. And there are some days that there might be fear around conversations. There might be, uncertainty and trepidation. But then I also believe at my core that there is going to be great opportunity that comes from this. And I think that if you guys subscribe to my monthly e-newsletter that I send out, one of the things that I mentioned in there is that, diamonds do not become diamonds without intense amount of pressure. pottery, you can design pottery and make it and throw it on a potter's wheel, but it doesn't become a beautiful finished piece until it gets fired at high temperatures. And so we are being put in a pressure cooker right now, but I also believe that as we come out of this, that great things are going to come. So kind of diving into the steps of this attitude and emotion cycle, there's going to be 6 little stages along this path. And the very first one is happy. When we look at our life and when we look at how we operate on a normal basis, you know, there's a lot of things that we're just doing day in, day out, where we're confident about what we're doing. We feel competent with the work that is before us. We might be dealing with some kind of stress, but it's good stress, it's manageable stress, it's healthy stress. It grows us in a positive direction. Well, when change happens, what immediately we go into is shock. It's a little bit of disbelief. It's okay, we're recognizing that things are changing. We didn't see it coming, and it's kind of a pause. We haven't really wrapped our brain yet around what the implications are. We're sort of just recognizing, oh my gosh, things are changing. Once we come out of shock, or once we kind of move through shock, a common stage to get to is some kind of pushback of going, you know what, I didn't ask for this. I don't know how to do it this new way. I maybe don't want to learn how to do it this new way. I have enough stuff on my plate already, like this stress, it's too much. You probably have your own versions of what's coming up in your own mind, but you're pushing back. You're going, you know what? I don't want this. I have decided that this isn't something that I want to accept, and so I am pushing back against this. And then stage 4 is frustration and anger. It can be a variety of emotions. If you have ever looked at like an emotion wheel before, you might label this something else, but it's where you start feeling emotions that are attached to this change. What happens when these emotions take over? It really kind of impacts your ability to creatively think. It impacts your ability to process information in a logical way. It impacts your ability to logically think and maybe access the strategy part of your brain, because you are caught in this emotional reaction. This is a place where your conflict strategy might come out. We're going to talk about here in a little bit, there's an assessment that I use, and within the results of that assessment, it highlights people's conflict strategy, what they do when they are combative, when they're feeling like they're in a conflicting place. And when you're in a place of frustration or anger, it's very common to be in a reactive, emotional conflict strategy. And so we're going to talk about what some of those are so that you can maybe recognize when you're there. The next is to settle. As we've gone through this, maybe the working from home, it felt novel for a week, it felt novel for a day, and then you're going, I can't get anything done, this is frustrating, I'm getting interruptions all the time. And then you reach to settling. It's just going, you know what, I can't change this, but you're not yet bought into it. And so you're sort of going through the motions. It might be a little bit of like a mild depression that's setting in. You're not buying into this, but you're like, all right, reluctantly, I'm going to put one foot in front of the other. There might be some negotiating happening of going, well, maybe we can try it another way. How can I try to find and get what I really want? Even though I need to also figure out how to get a buy into this change. And so we settle. The other thing that's happening when you're in a settling situation is there was an old way that you were used to doing something. And that old way, there were habits that were working for you. There was a flow that you could find. And there was a mastery that you had to those ways. And when somebody's in a place of settling and going through the motions, what's happening also is that their learning curve of doing it the new way has not yet fully gone through. So they're learning how to do it the new way. They're trying to find some kind of competency with the new way, but they're still desiring their old way that felt masterful. And so there's still a little bit of fear involved when people are here. And then the last is recommitment. Recommitment is saying, all right, I'm getting a little bit of momentum in the new direction. I'm trying to understand why we're doing this. I'm trying to buy into it. The fear is minimizing, and it's like, okay, I'm going to do my best to make it work. Maybe I can't change other things. And so I remember a specific time in my life where I was part of an organization, and there was, you know, something that was going on, and it was a little bit happy clappy. It was a little bit like more over the top than my traditional wiring was. And I was fighting it, and I was fighting it. And I'm like, man, this just isn't me. And I remember reaching a day and a moment where I just thought, you know what, if I can't beat them, let's just join them. Let's see what happens if I just join it. And it shifted so much inside of me. And so it was that idea of, I'm just going to do my best to make it work. Now, this cycle is, you might go through it in 10 minutes. And you might go through it a couple times in an hour. You might skip steps. You might skip all around. And then there might be other times where you're experiencing something and you get stuck. You get stuck at a certain spot. So it might take you days to work through. It might take you weeks or even months to work through a certain spot. But a question that I'd love for you to ask yourself right now is, in this attitude and emotion cycle, where is the place that you have a tendency to get stuck? Where do you hang out the longest? One of the things that we look at in coaching is creating an awareness around where you're at. By doing that, it helps to reveal the choices that you have in front of you. And from that, you can then make a decision, pick a choice, and start taking action to truly make change. So if you can create an awareness around a state that knowing where you are at in this cycle and which spaces you tend to hang out the longest, it can help you come to terms with really truly where you're at, and then moving to the next step, moving to the next change. So anytime I found myself in this and I am able to identify where I am at, sometimes when we look at solving the entire problem, it can be too overwhelming. It's like trying to eat an elephant all at one time. And when people go through and they are given some adversity, sometimes people are like, I just want the whole thing to be better right away. And it's not going to work that way. So a way to take it in smaller bites is to be able to identify the stage that you're in and just go, what's the next step that I can take to move myself through this stage? If you can shift from fixing the problem, the big problem, to take it down into a smaller bite and remember what your process is to work through this stage, it can help move you through it sooner and faster. So we're going to look a little bit more closely at number 4, which is the frustration, anger part, and number 6, which is the recommitment part. Okay. So I just shared this with you. Love Dr. Dyer. Change the way you look at things and the way you look, the things look at, change the way you look at things and the things you look at will change. So I want to talk about your personal wiring. Is anybody feeling mad right now? I can't see you guys, but maybe in the chat, if you could, if there's some emotions that you are dealing with, if there's some anger and frustration that you are feeling, if anybody wants to share that in the chat, just to identify with what, and I honestly, I can't see what's in the chat, but maybe I will as we're getting all done. But everybody expresses anger differently. And there is a assessment that I use that is called the core values assessment. Now, some of you who are on this call have actually done this with me. And nod your head if you've done this and this has given you a lot of information about yourself. Okay. So there's a DISC assessment, there's the Strengths Finders, there's Myers-Briggs, there's Enneagram, there's a lot that are out there. And they all serve their own purpose. Many of them take a look at behavior. And depending on the season of life you're in and what you're doing, your behavior can change. The thing that I like about the Core Values Index is that it actually has a 97.7 duplication rate throughout the history of people taking the assessment. And it takes a look at your innate, unchanging nature. So if you take the assessment now versus 15 years from now, there's a 97.7% chance that you will get the same results. So that's pretty amazing. And it looks at your core values as a human. Now, this is kind of the full debriefing that I do with clients, and we're not going to go through all of this right now, but what we are going to look at is within each of the values that people can be, and when people do this, they'll find that they're usually a combination. Everybody has pieces of these values within them, but in different percentages. But we're going to look at the conflict strategy. So somebody who has the highest value as a builder, their conflict strategy is to intimidate, okay? They will generally come into a conflict with intimidating people. They want to make other people feel less than so that they can feel more than. And so they do that through the strategy of intimidation. The next is merchant. A merchant's conflict strategy is manipulation. Now, there is a very positive form of manipulation and there is a very negative form of manipulation. But an example that I'll give you to help you identify with whether or not you connect with this is manipulation can look like if you're amongst a group of people at a table or a boardroom or a dinner table or something, and something goes down at that table where there is conflict, you are probably, once you leave that situation, you're probably going to go and talk with somebody who was not at that table and tell them your version of what went down. And in telling somebody else what your version is of what went down, you are going to be connecting with other people and kind of filling yourself with love. And might have people go, oh girl, I can't believe that went down that way. But this is the form of manipulation. And so some people do that in a healthy way through seeking out a trusted source to help them process what happened. And other people do that through more of a gossip, kind of bad-mouthing, spreading kind of rumors about people, but that's what manipulation might look like. On the bottom right is the innovator. And when somebody who is an innovator, their conflict strategy is actually interrogation. An innovator is somebody who, they're a problem solver. They enjoy assessing what is working and what it does not work, and then trying to solve the problem. And when they're in conflict, what they really like to do is make sure that their way of solving the problem, that's kind of elevated. So if you've ever been in a fight with somebody and you say like, stop, I don't want to fight with you. And their response is, I'm not arguing with you, I'm just asking you questions. They're probably an innovator. Lexi, are you guilty of that? You're identified with that? So they're asking questions. The reason that they're asking questions is because they have mentally traveled down a bunch of different ways to solve that problem. And they're thinking, well, we can't do it this way, because if we did it this way, then this would be the ripple effect, and we're not equipped for this, and we don't have the resources to do this. And so they're trying to make it evident that you haven't thought through everything that they've thought through to solve the problem, okay? So an innovator interrogates. And a banker is the last one, and their conflict strategy is aloof judgment. This is somebody that they know a lot of information. These are people that if the subject matter is within their wheelhouse, they would probably kill it on Jeopardy, okay? And they just like to know things. They probably read a lot of history, and they like consumer reports. They just like and value information. And so there's when they are in conflict with somebody, let's say that there's something around a kitchen table or a boardroom table that goes down and they don't feel good about what's happening there, but they have information that can really impact that group in a positive way. If they're not supportive of it, if they're in conflict about it, they will withhold that information from people. They just won't share it. And so that is how they deal with conflict. They withhold what they know, and they are willing to wait it out. They kind of put draw a line and just go, you know what, unless this is going to be done on my terms, I'm not going to share with you what I know. So I share this with you because you might look at yourself and know that this is how you engage in conflict, but you're doing it so habitually that sometimes you may not recognize that you're there. So if you can identify the conflict strategy that you have, I'll just be honest, like mine is, I'm a builder. Mine is intimidate, and I hate it when I am in that place, but I know that that is my conflict strategy. I couldn't verbalize it well before working with this assessment, but after working with this assessment, it helped me quite a bit to understand when I was feeling conflict is that I wanted to intimidate the situation. So when we know that we're here, it can also help us cool off and be able to pause and understand that we're in a conflict strategy, and just take a little bit of time to maybe go back to this attitude and emotion cycle and go, you know what, I'm stuck in frustration right now. What do I need to go through? What do I need to work through? What's my process to get this emotion out so that I can move out of this state and on to the next? You can deal with it within yourself. You can pull a trusted counselor, a mentor, a therapist, a coach, a trusted friend, somebody in that conversation maybe to help you work through it and get beyond the emotion so that then you can keep working through this cycle. So I'll just throw this in there. If anybody is curious about taking the CVI, there is a paid version that I use with clients, but then there is a free version that I have access to offering to other people. So if this is an assessment that you would like to take and just to learn more about yourself, go ahead and copy down that website. And this is the page that you will come to be able to take the CVI, but I'll go back and give you that. And Lexi, if you want to forward that in any communication, you guys can certainly do that. It will give you your results, and it will also give you a written debriefing on your style, okay, your core values and what it means to you. So I'll give you another second to jot that down before I move on. Okay. So I think it's important. This is the original Halle Simpson. I said it one day and then somebody was like, that was profound. So I decided, since somebody else affirmed me that it was wise words, that I could then go ahead and quote myself. But it is your job to manage yourself through change. If you can't do it, how can you expect somebody else to do it for you? There are people who can assist you in the journey of it, but you ultimately have to agree and decide that you are willing to go on the journey and be open to the process of change. So the very last thing that I want to share with you, and I'm going to show you a description, but then I'm also going to take myself off the PowerPoint and do this with my arms, because this is normally how I do it. But minimizing the frustration, there is a tool that I learned many years ago when I was very first a client of a coach that I call the Frustration Wedge. I don't remember what he called it, but this is what it is. And it is a way that helps to look at the data of what's going on when you are feeling adversity, when you are feeling frustrated, when you are feeling like you're backed into a corner, many times we're having an emotional response to that. And it's almost the equivalent, some of you guys have heard me use this analogy before, but if you've ever been in a passenger in a car and the driver of that car is lost, and according to the personalities that are in the car, it's sort of evident that you are not given authority to help correct the situation. What happens? You're in that car and you're along for the ride. You just kind of have to ride it out. And many times when we're having an emotional response and we're stuck in that anger and that frustration, it's almost like we've put our emotion in the driver's seat of a car, and then we are in the back seat and just allow that emotion to take us on whatever path it's going on. And when we can separate ourselves from the emotion, it's almost like physically getting out of that car, getting out of the back seat of that car. And then if we kind of continue with a traffic analogy, climbing up into a helicopter and being able to look at traffic from a bird's eye view or a helicopter view. You can see all the roads. You can see how many cars are on a certain road going north. You can see what color cars are. You can see if cars are going fast or slow. There's a lot that you can tell, and you're able to gather information and gather data. And so this frustration wedge, it helps you do that. So the labels that are put on this frustration wedge are, the top line is expectation. The bottom line is reality, and the space between those two lines is frustration or whatever emotion it is that you are feeling. So if everybody has that down, I'm actually going to stop my screen share. Okay. And continue. So I usually do this with my arms, and I hope everybody can kind of see me. But so if we have reality down here and expectation up here, and then the space between is frustration, the closer that your expectation is to your reality, the less space there is between the two lines, which means there's less space for frustration. When something plays out in life similarly or very closely to what you expect, we don't have a lot of negative emotion attached to it. However, when it's the opposite, when what we expect to happen and what actually happens are very far apart, there is a lot of space between those two lines. There's a lot of room for frustration. So when you feel frustrated, that is a good trigger. That's a good indicator and light bulb just to go, let me pull out a frustration wedge, okay? And the first thing that I would suggest people to do is to, in the middle, identify and label the emotion that you're feeling. Put that in the middle. Then tell yourself the story, write down on the reality line, what really happened? What played out that is causing this emotion for you? And then on the top line, this might be the harder to access. And it might take you a little bit of time to realize, but then lastly, go ahead and identify what was your expectation about that. For example, let's say it's lunchtime and you want to go to McDonald's to get a burger. You show up at the McDonald's, you order a Big Mac, fries, and a Diet Coke, and then 20 minutes later, you get your order. And it is not a Big Mac, the fries are cold, and it's a flat Diet Coke. Well, you're ticked. Maybe you didn't realize ahead of time that your expectation was to get a correct order within a certain amount of time, but now that that hasn't happened, you can probably, it probably takes it not happening to then identify what your expectation was. And so your expectation was probably to get the correct order within 3 minutes from ordering and be on your way and out the door. Once you get those components labeled on that graph, then your question becomes, in order to gain control or in order to minimize the frustration, what line can you move? Are you able to adjust the reality, and move the reality of what happened closer to your expectation? Or do you have to take a look at what your expectation is and adjust that to bring it closer to the reality? So in the McDonald's example, you can't go back and you can't get back the time that it took to get your order. But what you can do is you can say, well, let me change the reality. Go up to the counter and say, hey, can I talk to a manager? And explain to the manager, this is what I ordered, this is what I got, this is not the service that you guys are, known for giving. How can you correct this situation? And you can't get your time back, but maybe you can get a fresh hot order that is correct, or the Diet Coke that makes you happy. And so that minimizes your frustration. Maybe it's the expectation line that needs to be looked at. And as you look around the McDonald's and learn more about the McDonald's, maybe you realize that this is a training McDonald's. The lunch hour is the highest, busiest time of the day for them. And so if you want McDonald's, going to that particular McDonald's at the busiest time, you are never going to get this order within 3 minutes. So if you're going to go there, you have to adjust your expectation and know that it might take 10 to 15 minutes to get your order. And then that way you can minimize your frustration going there in the future. But what I found is that if I can take the data of the situation and put it out on that graph, and then ask myself some questions over what I can control and what I can move, it helps me know what action steps I need to take externally, or what mindset shift I need to make internally. And it's empowering to see what is within my control to move those lines. So I'll wrap up with just 2 quick quotes that were on the last few slides. One says, it's by Viktor Frankl. It says, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And then Socrates says, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. So that's what I have for you guys today. I know it's some simple tools that cannot, in the snap of a finger, change the situation that we're in, but hopefully it gives you the ability to understand yourself better, understand how you are wired to manage change, and recognize where you are at in the cycle, and then look at the data of what's going on and empower you to figure out if it's a mindset shift that you need to make, or if there are external circumstances that you really can adjust to help you pivot through this adversity that we are in. So what I'm going to do is I would like to maybe open it. I didn't quite know how much time this would take. And so I would like to just see if you have any questions. Down at the bottom of your screen, there's a little chat box. And if anybody has any questions or comments, you could go ahead and put something in the chat box that I can maybe address or answer.
Can you see what's there now, Halle? There is a comment from Shelley.
Oh, okay, Shelley, I saw the first part, but the second part I didn't. So typically it's your expectations you need to adjust. What was the last quote? The last quote was Socrates, and it says, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Okay, and then the other question that somebody has is to change, show the chart again. So I will put the chart up here.
And we will record this also. It is being recorded. So we will share all of this in a link that will be in an upcoming newsletter, as well as we will email all attendees that link. Correct, Lexi? Okay.
So is everybody seeing the cycle again?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So.
And I know Shelley also made a comment, which I know resonates with me too. Typically, it's my expectations I need to adjust. And I'm very, that happens to me quite often. more for myself too. Say I have a to-do list, and my to-do list is so long and unattainable that I'm learning that I need to pick, especially now, because I think I'm going to get all these things done. I need to really utilize the time, after work to get lots of things done, around the house. I'm here, right? But I get frustrated because it takes much longer than I think, to do all those things. So I'm learning I need to pick about, one thing, and then that bridge is much more narrower, and that will eliminate some frustration. My husband's been telling me that for years, but hopefully you can't
We
hear me
don't
say
learn
that.
it until we're ready to learn it. So, well, thank you guys for having me on the call. I get to turn it over to Diana Huddleston, and I've heard about Diana, but this is the first time that we're meeting and virtually, and so hopefully you are nodding your head and just able to support me in kind of what I shared. But she is somebody that I highly respect the field that she is in, and I know how necessary it is right now. She's the Director of Comprehensive Services for Boone and Hamilton County with Inspire Indiana Health. And so she is going to take it over, and I'm going to exit here shortly. And you guys, thank you for having me. And Diana, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Halle.
Thank you so much. And thank you again to the Chamber for sponsoring this. Aspire has been honored to be the sponsor for Women Inspiring Women this year. And this is certainly a pertinent topic to all of us now. And so appreciate Halle's comments and ways of looking at how we all can manage this very unique situation and the stresses that go along with it. So I want to talk about Aspire Indiana Health is the designated community mental health center for Boone County. And we have outpatient offices in the closest to you are our Lebanon office and also our Carmel office in Hamilton County at 136th Street. And we offer a variety of services to support behavioral health as well as primary care. One of the things that's unique about Aspire is that we are also a federally qualified healthcare provider, and we can also work with folks for their primary needs. We are interested in being able to provide integrated services for people that are experiencing mental illness as well as behavioral, as well as primary care needs. So during this time, I'm really pleased to say that Aspire was able to, using one of Halle's words, pivot very quickly. We are a cloud-based company, and so we are on our third week of doing all of our services virtual. We are completely open. All of our services are continuing to happen. We are seeing our patients virtually using our Google Meet system. And if they don't have that available, we are still able to have phone conversations and have them do services with that through us with that as well. We are also still taking new patients. So if you or family members, friends, are struggling in a way that's more than what all of us are struggling with, right? Because some of us already had the ability to cope in a variety of ways. We had capacities, but this has taken all of us to new realms. And so if there are people that you know that are really struggling and need more treatment, they can absolutely call our access line. I'm going to give you that number, and then one of my Aspire friends is going to put it in a chat room area for you as well. It is 1-877-574-1254. If you call that number, you will be connected to one of our support staff that will take information from you, and they will very quickly, today, if you call, get you connected to a licensed clinician to be able to do an initial assessment so that we can help determine what the needs are and then get you connected to ongoing treatment, whether that be therapy, individual, group, family, addictions treatment, addictions programming is individual and groups, we can help get that set up for you. We also are seeing our primary care patients through the video as well. We serve a large population of serious mental, people with serious mental illness, and we have been able to continue to see them as well, and be able to continue to connect them to the array of resources that Boone County offers to help support them through this time. And we've been so pleased to be able to work with all of the great agencies in Boone County to make those connections, to make sure that people are still getting all of the resources that they need to help manage their day-to-day life, and also the mental health needs that they have as well. I wanted to make sure to answer any questions that you might have about Aspire or our services, or mental health treatment in general. I'll also tell you that one of the things that Aspire does is that we operate a 24-hour crisis line, and that line is a different number, which I will give you, 1-800-560-4038. That line is not only open to the people that we serve at Aspire, but also to our community members. If you are struggling, you have an immediate need, an immediate struggle, or a family member that you are concerned about, you can call our crisis line. Someone will speak to you and help assess and figure out how we can get support to you. What are your needs? We work very closely with first responders in your area to help assess when they come across a person that's struggling in the community with an immediate mental health need. But that line is answered and is available 24 hours a day.
If anybody has a question that they want to send me just privately in a chat box, feel free to do that, and I can just share directly with Diana, and not even say your name. I'd be happy to do that on here. Or if you want Diana to be, if you want to contact, you can send her a private chat also. And like I said, there are, there's been business representatives that have contacted me because, their employees are fearful and frightened, not just, maybe because they're worried about if they'll have, a job. They could, a lot of what I'm seeing is those businesses that are in full operations, and those employees are fearful of, really getting COVID-19 by doing the job that they need to do because they're an essential business. So I know that there are, some great fears. And so I know Diana and her team can, help you with maybe some resources that you could even, share with your employees to possibly eliminate, that fear and that anxiety. And it might just be situational, all situational just for the current times that we're seeing. Someone might not have really, experienced that type of fear, anxiety before. This is definitely unprecedented that we haven't experienced before. So know that they're, there, for this time, but beyond COVID-19 also.
Thank you, Diane. One of the other things that we have offered for the last year and continue to offer is we do some mental health first aid training, some Columbia suicide risk and assessment training. We're continuing to do those trainings virtually, and we can do those for an employer if they wanted to have their management or team members be able to go through some of that training to be able to help recognize and then also understand how they can help their employees as they're going through this. That's also available. And I believe our training director is on this call, Dr. Sarah Dross Gonzalez. And if any of you are interested, you can go out to our website, all that information, how to contact us if you're interested in having a team or your company go through some of those trainings. That is free of charge. That's something that we do for the communities, and we would be happy to provide that training to you during this time. So one of the questions, the training that we provide, one of them is called the Columbia Suicide Risk Assessment Training. It's about 2 to 2.5 hour long training. And we actually, this last year, provided this training to all of the Zionsville Fire Department and to the juvenile probation officers and to the Department of Child Services family case managers. And it is a really good training for people to have, whether they're in the business or just for their own personal use, for when you are working with someone that has a lot of anxiety, depression, you're not sure if they're safe. It helps give you the immediate questions and guidance on where they are, what to do, how to talk to that person, and how to guide them to the right support. Good question. Thank you for asking.
Does anybody else have any other questions? You know, this is a great time. You know, we at doing business differently, as Diana said, you know, there's always those items that we say, you know, we need to take the time and provide that training, you know, for ourselves and our teams. So this is a great opportunity. You might have a little bit extra time, you know, to do that.
So another question is, what was the training that I mentioned? So we can do the Columbia Suicide Risk Assessment. We also do, oh, look, Dr. Gonzalez put a very nice thing on here. So
I think I'll save you some words.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Diane, is there anything else that you'd like us to go over?
I think that you've covered a lot. Possibly when we send this video out, if you can send Lexi the information, you know, that was listed on this chat box, we can share that also with that video link, because I know, you know, individuals may not have a question right now, but send us your contact again, as well as those trainings. And some people, you know, might want to talk to other team members to get that training started. So we want to make sure they have that information available.
Great. Thank you. I'll be happy to do that.
Does anyone have anything else? We appreciate the time that you've dedicated to be, you know, on this webinar. Again, thank you to Halle and to Diana and to Aspire Indiana Health. We greatly value their partnership. You know, really these webinars were intended to connect individuals with resources that they need. They started out, you know, kind of being very imperative information that was specific to COVID-19 resources. And we're going to continue these, even when we're back, you know, doing business in person as usual, because I think if we are able, we won't be doing 2 a week once we're able to do business as normal, but sometimes our schedules don't allow us to go to an event. So, but we do encourage you to follow the chamber on social media. That's where everything, is at your fingertips, how to RSVP for events. We also have a Women Inspiring Women Facebook page. We ask you if you'd like to join, join us and follow us on there. We look forward to July, actually bringing everyone together for a Women Inspiring Women, and there'll be more details, on the location and what that programming is. But the webinar is continuing. We know that we are going to recover from the situation we're all experiencing. So we want to be able to provide chamber community members at large with some resources to really, take some time to be able to put into action and equip us all to be better than we were before, whether that's professionally or personally. So we want to, enter into that recovery mode, ready to really set our businesses and organizations, apart and be stronger than ever. So we look forward to seeing all of that, transpire here in the near future. Anybody else have anything to say? You can unmute and do that if you'd like. Otherwise, look for that recording. Send, Diana an email or myself, and my email is D for Diane, and then my last name Schultz. It's SCHULTZ, and it's at boonechamber.org. And, we most certainly don't have all the answers, but we really are here for you all to be able to connect you with resources that you need. Anything else, Diana?
No, thank you so much. And please reach out if you need support.
Thank you so much. Everyone have a wonderful afternoon.